Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bolt from the Blue Tarot. My name is Sam. This is some tarot on the go. And if you're wondering, what what the hell is that? Um, well, you know how when you go to a restaurant, they ask you if you want this, like, do you want to eat this here or do you want it to go? And this is it's kind of the to go version. Like, you don't have to be sitting down for this. I don't have to be sitting down for this. You might be on the go. I'm on the go. These are just messages finding you whenever is convenient. So, some starting energies for today. I'm sitting looking where I am at the mountains and watching a storm roll in over them. I normally read in these public environments in like this shopping area where there's a couple of quiet spots ish. But they were just blaring pop music today and insisted that there was no way that they could turn it down or anything like that. And I was like, why am I fighting this? Let's go outside. Let's go to the car. And they haven't been like, this shopping center hasn't been playing music all day, but now they're like blasting the music. Do you know what I mean? So I've got the music coming from behind me and the storm rolling in from ahead. And it makes me feel like someone might be feeling like they're between a rock and a hard place, or they're hemmed in somehow, or like the universe is conspiring to not allow them to do this thing. And this could even be subconscious, but I think the encouragement there is to, like, you might be being forced into more uncomfortable conditions that will allow growth, or you're being challenged to find the stillness and the quiet in the commotion and in the noise. I think there's something to that. But yeah, today as I was heading out the door, I grabbed a couple of tarot on the go size decks that would fit in my bag with ease. So I've got my storybook deck, and I still don't know the deck that well, but I've got a mystical tarot of the saints, and I'm being intuitively reassured that the message we need is in there. So we're going to pull some cards from there today. But yeah, just quick shout out. If once you get a few decks, at least in my experience, you realize that there are certain ones that travel better than others. And if you're going to be like reading on the go, or if you want a travel deck, this is a message for someone. Get one that's, hand sized. A lot of really nice decks are quite large in actual fact. So look into the size of the cards. You're rarely going to find a tarot deck that's as small as a deck of playing cards. But in my experience, just slightly larger than that. They tend to be the same width, but a little taller. And those dimensions are perfect. And then the box that they come in is actually kind of important, because you need it to be sturdy enough to protect the cards, but not like bulky or heavy. So yeah, whenever you can, if there's a shop in your town where you can go to and check out the size of these decks in person, or even like the color of the ink. Sometimes you'll get a deck and you're like, wow, this is so dark in person. You know what I mean? Like it's difficult to discern any detail because of the way that it's been printed, like the colorways chosen. So yeah, whenever possible, do that. You can get decks used. If you do, just like smoke cleanse them or whatever. Just get rid of any old energy. But okie dokie. Yeah, let's hop in. So I'm going to get a starting energy, contextual energy from Storybook deck. What do we got? Who am I talking to? Oh, what? This is an exciting card. Oh, guys, you might be a lot of fun. So this card is number 23, Rick and Morty at Blitz and Shits. I don't know if you've ever seen the show, Rick and Morty. It's a cartoon which is very much for adults, and it is sci-fi themed. And let me just plug, if you're an adult and you're like, I don't watch cartoons, Sam, I'm an adult, give it a shot. It's raunchy, it's really like bawdy, but it's, to my way of thinking, actually very funny and actually incredibly interesting sci-fi. Like, I'm a fan of the genre, and they can do things in cartoons that they don't have the budget for to do with CGI. Like it's a completely different medium, and they blow it up in the most inventive ways. Like the plots are very tongue-in-cheek a lot of the time, but that's what allows them to explore like really creative sci-fi terrain. Anyhow, this is from an episode where they go to like the space version of Dave and Buster's, and it's called Blitz and Chits. And there's this game there, and it's called Roy. And Morty doesn't know. Rick is kind of like Doc Brown from Back to the Future, and Morty is kind of like Marty. That's sort of their dynamic, where Marty's just along for the ride. I mean, Morty is just along for the ride, and Rick's kind of the sci-fi professor genius. And so Morty doesn't know what this game is, and Rick does. And it looks like this VR headset game. So wordlessly, he plugs Morty into the game called Roy. And Morty's like, oh, what the hell? And he lives an entire life as a carpet salesman named Roy. And after a while, very quickly he forgets who he is and he just starts playing the game. Like he thinks he is Roy, right? And this is the point of the game. And, he lives this whole life and then he slips on a ladder, falls and dies. And it's the end of the game. Like it's like game over. And he wakes up as Morty in the VR headset. And he's like, oh, where am I? And Rick just wordlessly goes into critiquing his gameplay. And he's like, you beat cancer and then you went back to the carpet store? Like so weak. So all to say, right? Like Rick and Morty are like the eternal soul, and Roy is like the avatar, the body, the vessel. The game called Roy is the game that we are all playing. This card asks, how many lives can you live in one lifetime? There are no rules to this game. The only limits are the limits of your own imagination and your self-belief in the things that you imagine in yourself. I want to be careful here because this card is super extreme, like the show Rick and Morty itself. I've just written in all caps here, take Roy off the grid. So Rick starts to play the game, and very soon like a crowd of people gather around, and one of them yells out, like, this is like a 2-minute clip inside of one episode, but it could be a whole episode in and of itself. This guy in the audience watching Rick play as Roy just shouts like, this guy's burning Roy's social security card. He's taking him off the grid. So by this, I do not mean burn your social security card. That is not what I'm saying. But you can make bold choices that show others that what they think is impossible is indeed possible. This card is a reminder that we are spiritual beings having a human experience rather than humans having a spiritual experience. It's the change in mindset when Morty dies as Roy and wakes up to his true self, right? It's that change of the framework that helps us get a higher perspective on our life and puts into focus what we want out of it and how much we're valuing maybe safety or conformity, security over the things that really light us up. Like in a video game, I think there's a part of The Office where Dwight is playing some sort of like Second Life game, and you can be anything. You can be anything as this avatar, and Jim watches him play, and what he's chosen to be is like a carbon copy of his own life, where he is a paper salesman in the game as well. It's like your soul doesn't want to learn the same lessons over and over, lifetime to lifetime. It doesn't want to have the same experience in every lifetime, right? It wants a variety. It wants to taste all of the fruits, you guys. So what else from this card? Yeah, I mean, it just asks, what will you do with your avatar? Like the human body and identity with which you are familiar in this lifetime. How will you choose to play with it? What a starting energy. This is the card with possibly the most potential out of the whole deck. This is wild. I'm so excited for you guys. Rick and Morty at Blitz and Chits. I've wondered if I was ever going to pull that card. Okay, let's shuffle on over to the mystical tarot of the saints. King of Chalices. So King of Cups. This is Saint Benedict. Four of Staffs. So this is a Four of Wands equivalent. King of Swords. Saint George. Wow. King of Cups and a King of Swords coming out here. Four of Staffs isn't bad either. Four of Wands. Knight of Coins. So this is a Knight of Pentacles card. Saint Matthew. Ten of Chalices. Ten of Cups. All right, that's the spread. Let's see what we got going on. Okay, so this King of Chalices, Saint Benedict, this first card in the spread, I'm getting like this deck describes him as standing for professors, priests, prophets, travelers, which is quite like a disparate group of professions or vocations or life purposes, right? And I'm just getting this image of you at like a buffet because you have so many options as soon as you make up your mind to change. Like this card is telling me that the world is effectively your oyster, especially in combination with Rick and Morty at Blitz and Chits. Good God, your potential is huge. In this card, he is very self-assuredly holding this gold cup, this chalice. And, you know, the cups stand for emotion. And the King of Cups is the master, the highest in the suit in terms of emotional mastery. And there's something here about, like, he's writing with this red quill onto this really long scroll. And it looks like he's already put a lot of his thoughts down onto paper. And he looks like he could write forever. Like, he has this halo above his head. And what I'm getting is, as long as you are tapped into source, into spirit, like you can produce prolifically. Like, you will be prolific in what you choose to pursue. Like, it's just going to flow if you choose in alignment with your soul, your highest self, because that's the part that is spirit. That's the part that is in the world but not of it. It's housed in the vessel, but it is not the vessel. It's through that you become this particular King of Cups. The Four of Staffs here is a depiction of a bunch of like townsfolk on a beautiful spring day, and they have candles and staffs, and they're sort of like dancing and playing around this statue of someone honorific, like someone they're honoring for their accomplishments in life. They've brought the candles to what feels like a sacred space, like it's covered in like dancing prana in the air and smoke. It has the feeling of a holy site. I just feel like, yeah, I'm getting that this isn't too much. I'm asking, like, is this too much? If you do your soul's calling, if you follow what your soul wants you to do, this is going to lead you to some renown. Like, I can't guarantee literal statues, but you're going to be celebrated for this. You will be recognized for your excellence because it's going to flow so naturally. It comes from your soul. It comes from spirit. And people can't question that. And the people that it is for will eat, sleep, and breathe it. Like, yeah, you will be much beloved and appreciated for this. So this King of Swords, Saint George, I tried to see what the book had to say about this card, the book for this deck. But no shade to the deck. I love the art. It's like a very, in my opinion, like a weird deck, and I love that. And I was intuitively guided to it. I can't slight it, but the page for the King of Swords is an accidental copy paste, it looks like, of the Knight of Swords. So there's actually no description in the guidebook about this St. George card. And there's something about this in terms of this reading, because this thing that you do is like, okay, so first of all, what I get from this is, you know, he's about to slay this dragon. He's the King of Swords. But I'm really getting that the dragon is like an ego design, not necessarily the ego, but there's some way in which the contrived way in which, like the very human way in which you've tried to organize your life, at least when it comes to, this thing that you're supposed to do. Let's just say that. There's some way in which, the ego can only, like, the ego's dreams are small dreams compared to the ones the spirit would have for us. And they are sometimes like pigeonholing us. They are very egoically driven, right? They're like, what I want to do is I want to, like, my ego, ego's so sneaky. My ego wants a successful YouTube channel, right? With lots of likes and comments and subscribes. But I don't know that that's what my spirit wants or needs, right? That might not be the point of my YouTube channel. If all it does is create a beautiful community where a handful of people feel truly heard and understood and like a little oasis, could that not be the entire job of it, right? Or the larger purpose? What if this thing that you do that will make you renowned and loved, what if it's not like an ego glorifying thing? What if this renown comes after your lifetime? What if you aren't widely appreciated, but you're appreciated by a niche that really gets you? Like, these are things that the ego would be like, well, if that's the case, scrap it. Like, don't do it anymore. Let's not waste our time. We need glory, right? Like, we need, that's small potatoes. But, it's hard to measure the depth of the impact that we have on others and the world. We can measure the breadth, if you know what I'm saying. Like, we can tell that in number of likes or followers or whatever the ego might design, that it understands, right? That's like tangible on paper. I can see, like, here's the bar chart I made of my success over time. But we cannot really ever know the depth of our impact within individuals' lives. And I would challenge, anyone who thinks these aren't equally as important, to re-examine that, or just to take it on faith that you can impact the world deeply rather than broadly. And that is just as valuable. Okay, that's the art covered. So the printing problem with the book, I think this speaks to something about, like, whatever you do, it wouldn't be your first choice. Like, it wouldn't be the ego's first choice, or the way that you would think about approaching it egoically. Like, you might be taking this intuitive approach as this king of cups, and that's what's leading to success. But there's no guidebook for what you're doing. There's no model you can follow. Someone else's ideas about success will not be applicable to your situation. Your path is just different. It doesn't mean that their advice isn't sound advice for what they want to create, right? But what you're trying to create is different, and the way that you're being called to do it is correct. So don't doubt that. Once you get in the groove and you're like, oh no, this feels right. I don't know why I'm being called to mention this. I have seen a lot of like Jesus synchronicities today, and just general love, like universal love synchronicities. But I'm reading with this mystical tarot of the saints, which are primarily like Christian saints in more of the like Catholic tradition, with some esoteric stuff kind of peppered in. It's a weird and wonderful deck, but even when I got it, I was like, why am I picking up this particular deck? But it felt right, and it can deliver different messages. Anyway, like, I'm reading with it, and I look up, and in the car next to me, there's this Jesus statue with a halo. There's something about your faith guiding you to this, and needing to have some faith in what is like sort of an unorthodox approach. Yeah, it's unique to you and your path, and it's supposed to be this way, even if it looks really, really weird to other people. Like, the art on these cards, I love it, but it's so weird. It's perfect. It's perfect. Okay, guys, so next is the Knight of Coins, Saint Matthew. And from the depictions on the card, he's got he's on a horse with an angel on the back of it. He's got like his his book in hand and a pentacle in the other. There's a bag full of coins next to him and an abacus. Let me be upfront. I never went to Bible school. I didn't go to Sunday school. I didn't attend church as a kid, so I don't know the Bible that well. But I do know the Amazon Prime show, The Chosen, which is I think it's personally I think it's phenomenal. It's a really it's a really entertaining telling of a story that I otherwise would not have researched. It's about like how this Jesus character, talked all of these apostles into following him. But each of the apostles are like, why me? Why, like, they don't understand why they're chosen. Matthew least of all. So he's a tax collector for the imperial Roman government of Judea, the oppressors of the Jewish people. And he is himself a Jew. So he is not well liked at all, Matthew. But he's still asked by Jesus to be a follower of his, like an apostle eventually, right? And it's not clear to any of the apostles why Jesus chose them, but it's a spirit-driven thing, right? Because they all think like, oh, I'm just Mary, I'm just Matthew. It's like you have no idea how big you are spiritually, and how big you can become. We've got this Knight of Coins, Saint Matthew, followed by the Ten of Chalices, which Ten of Cups is like, this is a depiction of like the healthiest family I've ever seen. Like, so abundant and well. Two small children, one beautiful, possibly like Irish setter looking dog, pregnant woman, husband with his hand on her belly, like orange trees in the background, cups everywhere. I mean, what I'm getting from this is when you move away, when you slay this dragon of your egoic desires or plans on this thing, it is a very paradoxical thing, but what it will bring by leaning into spirit rather than any of the practical ways that you should approach, practical in quotes here, that you ought to, in quotes, approach this thing. Like when you move away from that and you say, okay, spirit, show me the way. Like, guide me via my intuition, help me hear it, whisper to me, and I'll do it. Like once you do that, once you surrender to your life as a co-creation, that's what brings in, because what I get from Matthew is like, first off, it doesn't matter what's happened in your past. If you're like, Sam, I have this well-established job that I hate, that is, that offers me so much security. Like it's, I would be a complete fool to leave this job, or I would be a complete fool to start this thing. And let me just remind you about the archetype of the fool in the tarot. Truly, that's about new beginnings and taking a leap of faith. Matthew took this leap of faith that I don't mean in the Christian sense redeemed, but it redeemed his entire life. It turned it around completely. He lived a life that was focused on material security, over spiritual freedom, over community, over the desires of his own soul. And it was only Jesus calling to him that made him hear this desire and believe that he could lean into it. Just know that spirit is calling you to do this. And, since most of us don't have, the Son of God or whatever around to physically encourage us in the form of another human being, you have to choose yourself, right? Like you are both Jesus and Matthew in this scenario. The Jesus part of you is the part that's backed by spirit, that's fueled by spirit, that is driven by spirit. But yeah, from Saint Matthew, I get unexpectedly fruitful physical abundance. And from the Ten of Chalices, I get community, chosen family, fulfillment, and not having to worry about your circumstances. I want to say karmic circumstance. Yes, okay. I'm being called to emphasize this. I meet very few tapped in people, but I met one the other day who said that I had this feeling of protection around me. And let me just say, like, everyone can have that. It's an energy thing. That's what she was picking up on. But when you pursue your soul's desires, your soul's dreams, your spirit-driven visions, you start to be on your, like, you can call it highest timeline, you can call it like chosen path. There's no way to not make it sound grandiose, because it is grandiose. Like, it's resplendent and it's beautiful and it's a choice as well as an intuition, right? It is this beautiful path on which nothing dark can touch you. Like, you are, unless you veer off of that path, you are so blessed. Like, you are so protected, so protected. So there are lots of reasons to choose this path. Okay, yeah. So it might not feel like it at first. Let me throw that up. Um, there's a degree to which you need to raise your vibration to the point where, like, spirit, you are in near constant, constant contact with spirit. And that is truly the protective factor. So the beginning is choosing this path. You can do other things to raise your vibration alongside it or before you make this leap. But those two things in coordination are what offer you protection. Choosing the path and keeping your vibration aligned with that path, like continuing to make choices in alignment with it. And this is everyday stuff as well. Choosing things that are for your highest good, even if they're not related to this thing you're doing. I really want to know what it is. I'm getting that if I ask, I'm not going to, like, it's not going to help. This is different stuff for different people, and we'll just muddy what is otherwise a clear and sufficient message. So yeah, any advice? Yep. Okay. On some advice cards. We're going a little long on the go, but this is a beautiful message. This is rife with potential. Let's see. Okay. This is card number 63. Unsurprisingly, this is from Lord of the Rings. Frodo and Sam at the Falls of Rauros. This is about sharing burdens for you. Like, someone has your back. Okay, yeah. This is about having your own back. On this path, like, this is a spirit-backed path. That does not mean that other human beings will be supportive of this, especially initially. That doesn't mean that the majority of people will ever be supportive of it. I mean, now we think of Jesus as like, he's a rock star figure. Like, he's huge. Everybody knows. But at the time that Jesus lived, he was very much the underdog. he was not well liked by people in power. Most people vehemently disagreed with him. So I'm not saying that you're heading down a path of persecution or crucifixion, for that matter. I don't get any of that energy here. Just know that, what you're doing is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. And people might try to put you down for doing it. For choosing yourself is really what you're doing. Choosing your soul. Tell you it doesn't make any sense. Try to tell you how you should do it instead. That kind of stuff. But you got this, because you have your own back, right? What I find really helps is it's this, like, penitent gesture, but it's to yourself, to your own soul, where, do this when no one else is around, no one can see you, but it's like, just put your hand or both hands on your heart space and close your eyes and just say, like, I got you. I am here to support me. I'm here to support myself. I have got you. Okay. Like, this is a process of learning that you don't need anybody else's permission to be safe, that you create your own safety. And when you choose yourself in this fashion, like, spirit is always choosing you. Spirit is always choosing you. But when you choose yourself, that's when they know we're on the same page, and it allows protection to occur. It allows support because you're on the path, right? You're on the path. I mean, this is part of becoming, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on these, unmesswithable spiritually and on your life path. Okay, let's see. Anything else? No, I think that's it. Oh, wow. What a powerful Like, let me just underscore this. You need no other advice because your support of yourself is so abundant. Like, it's so deep. And there is so much power in that alone, because support of your soul's desires go hand in hand with support of spirit and spirit support, right? It, like, this is the way. It's the way. So best of luck to you guys in following this path. Just know that it's a very courageous thing, and it can feel counterintuitive. I hate that word. Now, let me explain why counterintuitive is problematic. This is a word that we use to describe something, an approach that seems to not make any sense, or that runs counter to, like, it would seem to imply counter to our own instincts. And that is not, intuition is fundamental, right? Like, what it actually is counter to is common sense, which is not all that valuable. People will describe things as counterintuitive if it is not the way that most people would do something. And I think that you are clever and worldly enough to know that the way that most people would choose to do something is bogus, man. It tends to be pretty rubbish. So don't worry about that. Listen to your intuition. The true counterintuitive thing is that which runs counter to your intuition, or that you feel compelled to do because others say, or your upbringing or your programming suggests that this is the way it ought to be done. Okay, I could ramble on forever about this. I'll leave you guys with that. Thanks for tuning in on the go with me, and I'll see you in the next one.